Creating uniform communities is one way in which the required housing standards can be achieved. Perseverance, on the east bank of Demerara, is one of the communities being singled out as a model for the standard of housing in Guyana. This area will also drive the development of a community-based housing development, which will guide the orderly and progressive development of our city, towns and communities, whether urban or rural. But before it can create wholesome and cohesive communities, the government must first address those pockets of squatters in several communities of our regions which are way below acceptable or standard living conditions. Those squatting areas as East La Penitence and Sophia in Georgetown and Angoy's Avenue in New Amsterdam. In this week's edition of the Guyana 411, we look at Angoy's Avenue, which has a high degree of squatting and what is being done to ensure orderly, livable communities for the citizens who reside there. Squatting has become a regular feature in the Guyanese landscape. In fact, Guyana has a long history of squatting, as some persons have been squatting for as long as 50 years. In fact, this practice resulted in communities like Angoy's Avenue and Sophia. Angoy's Avenue is the largest squatting settlement in Guyana, dating back to the 1960s. Back then, the government allocated sections of the area to a co-op society, which then allocated lands to several members. There was a subsequent disagreement between the co-op society and the government over the distribution of the lands. After this falling out, lawlessness ensued. Hundreds of persons took advantage of the confusion to erect shacks on the lands, which were earmarked for schools, community centers, playgrounds, and other facilities for the legitimate development of the community. Patricia Lynch was one of the many persons who took up residence in that area with her parents during that time.
People would have been here for the past 50 years or more. Some people, it is saying, is squatting, but persons would have come here and leased lands from persons who were landowners. And then sometime during that process, the government of the day then, which would have been Mr. Burnham, right, he would have stepped in and ensured that through the PNC government then, that lands were allocated from the landowners and given to persons, sold to persons who were in need of house lots. The lands were sold from landowners to the government, but then those of us who were here, older persons like myself, they were able to acquire the lands through a co-op society. Yeah, and that society would have had some challenges with the previous government. And so the land and the landowners and people were then coming in and squatting, nilly-willy, taken away from the plan that the previous government, the PNC government, would have put in place. And that would have brought us into a state whereby where we are right now, where we don't have a community center, where we don't have a regular play field, we don't have a school in this area, we have a nursery school. And that came about because persons came from as far as Maro on the East Bank and took up those places that were earmarked for such things within this area. We're trying with whatever we have right now, but it's not sufficient. And that, I think, is one of our challenges, our youths within this area not having anywhere to go and so on.
From pockets of persons setting sparsely throughout the community over the years, hundreds of persons began to take up the residence. The community expanded and took a life of its own. In time, canals which were neglected were filled in to become dams. These dams were then used as streets and then named after some of the earliest residents in the community. Some of these include Levi Dam, Patrick Dam, Mai Dam, Lynch explains.
You would not find those persons now, but you'll find their offsprings there. And as such, you would have houses right along the head of the street, because the road is called Angoy's Avenue. And for the benefit of those listening, this area is Mount Sinai. The area is called Mount Sinai, and it's actually located in West Kanji. This road here, history says that this road was named Angoy's Avenue after a man called Angoy that used to work at the DC office. One of the persons who would have been working there for a number of years. It has a rich history to me, but then during that time when the Burnham government was there, the PNC government, we didn't have roads. The road that you're looking at there, there was a very deep trench that ran up there. There was just a narrow dam, and that was filled, and during that time you had something that they call the developmental process, and you had persons, permanent secretaries, PPOs, and all of those persons were sent in here to assist in the development of this area. They spent weekends here. They help us to dig drains. They help us to fill up this place and so on. So we have that history with us, and we're grateful for it.
Back when Angoy's Avenue started, the area comprised mostly of wooden shacks. Today, homes range from modestly constructed shacks to elegantly designed two-story residences filled with modern amenities.
You see a lot of big houses now, and those are gradual developments. There were indeed small houses. Back then, a lot of persons who live in here now did not want to come in here because we used to call it a dam. But if you check now, persons who would not have given this area time of the day, they're the ones that are here, and with some of those very large houses that you're looking at. So even though sometimes you have, as in any other area, stigma, as Angoy's Avenue, I'm proud of the history because I can take you back through the history. I am proud of it to see where we were and where we are today. Quite shortly, we will be receiving our titles, and I'm happy for that, and I know every other person is happy for it. Because when we get that, we can do whatever we want to do, right? We are so, and I don't want to go back to the previous government. I am looking forward. We would have been there, things would have happened, politics, whatever. But we have crossed that hurdle, and right now we are just waiting for further development because we were promised, and we see those promises coming true right now. We are having our titles. We are promised. If you look at this road is one of the promises that was made to us. That road comes straight from Shoe Lane, and it took us 24 years to get this road. That was promised to us recently, this road, and it's a link to New Amsterdam, right? So we're grateful. We're seeing things happen here, and I think I don't have lips enough to praise this government. Some person might say, well, what to do? We are seeing here, and we know that one day things will get better for us. We're not quarreling.
Angoy's Avenue is home to more than 1,000 residents from all walks of life. Since the community was an unplanned one, it was unregulated, and therefore for years residents were unable to benefit from proper services such as infrastructure, including water and electricity supplies. Regional Chairman David Armagon tells us what was done by the previous administration.
One of the impediments that prevented us from coming into this area to do developmental works is the injunction that was filed by the co-op of this area preventing government from entering Angoy's Avenue. Since that time, the injunction was withdrawn, and immediately after that injunction was withdrawn, we took the opportunity to move in very quickly into Angoy's Avenue.
Therefore, as Region 6 bloomed and developed, Angoy's Avenue for many years remained the epitome of neglect and poverty. It was only 4 years ago that the strong efforts began to be placed on narrowing the development gap between the community and those of its neighbors. 2 years later, in 2015, the community for the first time got electricity. Patricia and Baby Ali, residents of Angoy's Avenue, expressed happiness after receiving electricity for the first time in their homes.
Well, I feel nice that because all the time we living in darkness, and I'm glad that the government come and give us light that we can all see.
Firstly, I must say I'm benefiting a lot because I couldn't use a microwave, either a fridge. I had a solar, only could just give us a one light and TV. So I'm very happy now. I can afford to have a washing machine, microwave, fridge, and a lot of things. And then we're saving a lot of more money because you don't have to go and buy things every day. With the fridge now, you can go and purchase things one time a week from the market and store your things like meat and fish. And so we're very, very happy in Angoy's Avenue. And I must say thanks again to GPL and the government of Guyana.
The community is getting more attention since the coalition government came into office and started to push a vision of building safe, cohesive communities. President David Granger, in his address at the ceremonial opening of the 11th Parliament, had highlighted that his government intends to provide dignified living conditions for its citizenry. And I quote, "Your government aims at providing accessible and affordable housing in sanitary and safe communities with the necessities of wholesome and dignified living for citizens in need." End of quote. It is this stated mission that has been driving the government's vision for housing development. It is also what is driving the Central Housing and Planning Authority's CHNPA's attention for regularizing squatting in communities like Angoy's Avenue. As part of creating livable and wholesome communities, the government is now enforcing a strict zero-tolerance approach to squatting. The project being executed by the Central Housing and Planning Authority, CHNPA, is twofold. It caters to regularization of those communities which lend themselves to upgrading and housing development. These are the squatter communities that CHNPA can go in and conduct surveys that take in consideration factors such as threats of erosion, flooding, and areas for basic service provisions such as education, determine that they are suitably upgraded to housing schemes. The other approach is relocation of the residents, particularly those squatting on high-risk, environmentally unsafe areas in the communities. In March 2017, the CHNPA began the process of regularizing the unplanned community of Angoy's Avenue. Minister within the Ministry of Communities, Valerie Adams-Patterson, and staff of the CHNPA held a meeting with the residents. The engagement resulted in the government and the residents reaching consensus on the way forward. They agreed that residents occupying lands that are not reserved for roadways, drainage canals, and community playgrounds would pay for the lot they occupy.
We cannot maintain you on the reserve. You have to get off. Right. Reserve means reserve. Not for you to live on, not for you to put your shop on, not for you to put anything. So prepare to get off. So remove peacefully. Because as I said at the beginning of this meeting, we have to do what we have to do, and you also have to do what you have to do. Are we in agreement with this? Yes. So help your neighbor to move. If you don't move, not one letter will be issued on the 24th.
Since then, CHNPA has been in the process of verifying the lots and owners of the houses in the settlement. Director of the Community Development Department at CHNPA, Gladwin Charles, says that the unit is hoping to give the residents their house lots and titles before the end of the year.
So far, we have given 510 allocation offers. So persons who we have verified are the occupiers of the lots and they don't have any disputes and so on. So we've given them offers, and persons have started to make payments at the regional office in Region 6. And also, another area that we're working in Region 4, in Middle Road, you would have maybe heard of that as well, where we're working with land zone surveyors to regularize the area. To date, we have completed what we call a block and occupation survey, and we're doing a design of the area. So from that design, we will determine the lot sizes and then also persons who would have to be relocated, and then we would deal with those persons individually.
Under CHNPA's plan, not all of the residents of Angoy's Avenue can remain. Those persons residing on the reserves in the community will have to be relocated to pave the way forward for the upgrading of the community. Persons who have to move, however, will not be left to suffer. The government, as part of rolling out its new housing program, has committed to relocating these and other squatters living on reserves either through the distribution of house lots or identifying rent-to-own houses for them. Minister Adams Patterson explained that particularly in Region 6, the government will be creating double apartment buildings to house these relocated squatters.
What we've done, we've come up with a standard size, and then we categorize you in 3 categories: small, medium, and large. Small, we consider anybody who has 3,200 or 3,200 square feet, and below that is small. So we're charging you a big money, $59,400. And you ain't want nothing better than that. Over that, y'all can make a change my mind. Over the 3,200 square feet, we are going to come up with what the medium size looks like and the large. But the persons with the medium size, which is the in-between, will pay $92,000. And the large ones can pay big bucks. I was smiling here, plenty money coming. Just $150,000. And you ain't want nothing better than that. So nobody will pay over $150,000. We are currently entering into an arrangement with them for 2 plots of land in the tannery area, where we're going to do the double apartment buildings. I'm sorry that we can't show you what it looks like, because we don't have the projector set up. We didn't come for that really, but we'll come back. And if you look at your TV, you'll see it. Nice. We've had discussion with the police this morning, and they're all excited. But we're doing 40 duplexes or double apartments, nice, modern looking, in that area, which will take care of 80 families. And we're also doing some in ordinance. We're doing another 30 in ordinance Portlands, which will take care of 60 families. So in all, we're covering about 140 families. And I think that's a big boost for the people of New Amsterdam, because you alone got 2 areas that you will benefit from. We are going to come back to hold a consultation on that, because I know you want to know size and how much money and this and that, but we can't do all that now. But just to let you know that we have not forgotten you, and these 2 areas are the only 2 areas that will benefit from that program for Region 6.
For those residents who will be allowed to remain in the community, regularization is the fulfillment of long-stated desire to legitimately acquire house lots in the area that they have occupied for decades. Here is how some of these residents feel about moving from squatters to homeowners.
Well, I'm very happy and pleased about the regularization of this place, because for years people have been living in here and they don't have a title for the land. They don't know where they are going. But now people are happy they are saying that they know that they can be an owner of a piece of a land or a property. So they are very happy, and I'm very happy about it. So I can know that before the Creator ready for me, I can say, well, yes, I have achieved my own property. Right? Whereby I can leave something for my offsprings, that they don't have to go on to rent people place and these kind of things.
I would say I feel good about this regularization, because I've been waiting for it for over 50 years, right? And I'm glad that they come so we could get ownership of this place. Because people have been saying so many negative things about this place because it would have break your heart over the time, right? And I'm thankful for the minister, Miss Patterson, that she came in and she tried to settle everything. And I hope by next year we can get our titles and we can get a road and everything positive. That this area could be uplifted to a standard of any other area in the country. I want to thank her very much.
Well, to be honest with you, I got no problem, you know. I know what the government got to do what they got to do, and I'm okay with it, you know. I may be saying so, but other people might say something else, I don't know. But I'm okay with it. Because once you live in free, you got to end up paying for this and paying for that, you know. You can't want to live free all the time. The girl bring me actually inside there, you know, because I've been living with them down there, and all the back here had nothing. People start doing the little thing at the back there. And I come in here like about I come near only about 70. One time, 70s, in the 70s, I come in here. All them road you see wasn't like this. It was bare slush. You got to walk through, come through, go to walk and them kind of thing. But eventually, we did what we had to do, and the government did what they had to do. Give you a nice pitch road and things, so could come because vehicle and thing could come in here. Years back, you couldn't find all them fancy houses you see in front here, you know. People come in, who left from go outside, people come in and do what they got to do. And left what they got for left, who in charge and taking the gun with the business again. But it's shaping up nicely though.
Good, real good. That they're actually doing something for Angoy Avenue people and the residents in here, because sometimes it has been really disgusting. So I appreciate what they're doing for Angoy Avenue people.
Once this community is fully regularized, residents can expect better services. It means that roads will be fixed and recreational facilities will be constructed, all with the aim of providing safe, sustainable housing for all the citizens. Moving forward, government's effort to address squatting in areas like Angoy's Avenue will be easier since the Central Housing and Planning Authority is crafting a plan to holistically address the issue of squatting. The plan is being prepared by a consultant, Director of Central Housing and Planning Authority, Gladwin Charles explains.
Because of the seriousness of squatting and some of the issues, and in terms of people who living in a regular or built-up area like Mr. Harris explained, and I'm sure some others might be affected as well. The seriousness of it and the complaints from residents in different areas, not only because of that, but we know the dangers of living in these zero-tolerance areas. In our 2017 work program, we have budgeted, and we're working currently where we're working on having a action plan for the relocation of persons occupying zero-tolerance areas, and that would be done by a consultancy where work is being done now to get that sorted out. So we realize that it is a very big task, and the CHNP alone cannot do it. And we're in that action plan. We know there are some ideas in terms of working with different agencies, so it has to be an interagency approach. The CHMP has we established a few years ago an interagency coordinating unit where we have the representatives from Ministry of Health, Lands and Surveys, Public Works, and most government agencies working together. But we know we have to strengthen that. And I know when the action plan is completed, or even before we start working to get that work done so that we can start working together and help in the relocation process. So we would have all those agencies or entities involved in the process to make it easier and to work even with the communities as well, people in the representative, the stakeholders in various communities.
From data collected, CHNPA will be regularizing close to 12,000 persons squatting. This figure does not account for those persons who continue to rebuild on areas previously cleared of squatters. Minister within the Ministry of Communities, Valerie Adams Patterson, is advising persons currently engaged in squatting to stop.
Squatting is illegal and it does not fit into our policy. we will never encourage illegal activities. And if you recall, from the time His Excellency President Granger was sworn in, he spoke out nationally against squatting. And he said, stop the illegal occupation of land, go through the process. We know that, and let's be fair, in the past, some persons applied for so many years, and some people would have gone into squatting out of frustration. Some would have gone into it out of need, because sitting here as minister, I can tell you the amount of stories that came to me, and some of them are very touching. And there was a need in some cases for some people to get some place to live. And so I believe out of that kind of desperation, some people went into squatting. However, some went into it as a business. They just go take the land and rent it. They build a little house and rent it. Some of them legally own house lots. They rent that and go squatting. We're not going to continue to encourage that. And so we have to bring order.
This year, CHNPA has targeted the allocation of 400 house lots to be regularized. To date, 198 of these lots has been allocated. CHNPA has targeted completing the processing of land titles for 350 for 2017. Thus far, 52% or 185 have been processed. As part of creating livable and wholesome communities, there are a number of squatters in areas which the government has been working aggressively to remove and to develop those that are not on government reserves and can be regularized. These developments are being carried out across the country and in the communities of Sophia, Plantation Great Diamond, and on the West and East Rheinveld Front Road shortly. In a subsequent 411, we would look at the works being done specifically in the city. That's all for 411 this week. I am Zanil Williams. Thank you for joining us.